This is a Sports Catastrophe production.
Hey there, Heather Ho there, it's Jeff Cutter Diamond. Welcome you to another Sports Catastrophe on this day. And on this day, October the 14th, 1976, one of the most infamous home runs of all time was hit. And it was a clean shot that everyone wanted to see. So, it was the 1976 ALCS between the Kansas City Royals and the New York Yankees. The Yankees were getting back to prominence. In 1964, they went to the World Series, lost to the Cardinals in 7 hard-fought games, and then they just dove up. It was a couple years later that they actually had only 600 fans for their last home game. And the Yankees went through a lot of turmoil in the standings and with each other. But in 1976, the Yankees finally came back and snapped themselves out of their problems and got to win the AL East with 97 wins. The Kansas City Royals were an expansion team in 1969 and took 7 years to win the division title. It was one of the fastest rises by an expansion team ever. I mean, the Mets also 7 years after they became a franchise got to win the division, so it was kind of a tied to the Mets. So they both had great stories. Now, contrary to what people believe, Reggie Jackson was not part of this Yankees team in 1976. He was part of the 77 team. In 1976, he actually played for Baltimore after getting free agency. And the Montreal Expos almost had him in the free agent draft, but he refused to go to Montreal. So anyway, the Royals and Yankees were coming off romanticized stories. And then came the LCS. The first 2 games in Kansas City saw the Yankees and Royals split the first 2. Yankees won Game 3 before Royals won Game 4, 7-4. Meaning we would have to have a 5th and deciding game. Back then, the LCS was a best of 5 from between 1969 and 1984. You win 3 games, you're going to the World Series. So the starting lineups were this. Kansas City had Al Collins in center, Tom Boquette in left, George Brett at third, John Mayberry at first, future Blue Jay, Hal McRae Sr. in right field, J.B. Quirk kept DHing, Cookie Rojas at second, Freddie Patek short, Buck Martinez, future Blue Jay at catcher, and Dennis Leonard pitching. The Yankees had Mickey Rivers in center, Roy White in left, Vernon Munson catching, Chris Chambliss at first, Carlos May DHing, Greg Nels at third, Oscar Gamble in right, Willie Randolph at second, and Fred Stanley shortstop with Ed Figueroa starting this game. Unfortunately for the Yankees, the Royals started out fast as with Brett on base, John Mayberry took an Ed Figueroa pitch and hit a home run, making it 2-0 Royals. One of the best first basemen in Kansas City history, sorry, Mike Sweeney. Nevertheless, the Yankees were not detracted. After Mickey Rivers tripled, Roy White singled him home. And then, inexplicably, after the runners on second, third, the Royals took out Dennis Leonard and put Paul Splintorf in. I think Leonard was hurt. Regardless, Chambliss hit a sac fly to tie the game at 2. And then in the top of the second, Buck Martinez hit an RBI single to score Cookie Rojas, who would be a coach for the Blue Jays, if I remember right. So a lot of Blue Jay connections. So the score was 3-2 Royals until the bottom of the third when Splintorf gave up an RBI single to Vernon Munson to score Mickey Rivers. And then Chambliss grounded out and got another RBI. So he had 2 RBIs that day in the first 3 innings. Splintorf would be taken out for Marty Patton. And then Andy Hasler came in the bottom of the 5th to pitch to the Yankees. Figueroa was holding them off. And in the bottom of the 6th, Munson had an RBI single score Rivers to make it 5-3. Carlos May would reach on it. Ground ball error by George Brett. And made it 6-3. Sandy Alomar Sr. would be the DH for the Yankees. It looked good. Mark Littell came in the bottom of the 7th. Remember the name. In the top of the 8th, Ed Figueroa faced Al Collins, gave up a single, and then they went with Grant Jackson, former Pirate. Jim Wolford came in to pitch it for Boquette and hit a single. And then George Brett as only George Brett could do, took a pitch from Grant Jackson, whacked it over the fence, tied game, scoring himself, Cowens, and Wolford. So George Brett made it 6-6. It wouldn't be the first or last time that George Brett would destroy Yankee pitching in the postseason. Fortunately for Jackson, he got Mayberry, McRae, and Quirk in shorter. In the bottom of the 8th, Mickey Rivers, Roy Wade, and Ferdinand Munson all were out. Dick Tidrow came in for the 9th. Gave up a pair of groundouts to Rojas and Patek. Buck Martinez would single, Al Collins would walk, Bud Wolford would ground out. And then Chambliss would come to walk up to the plate against Mark Littell. So he's in heat. Reggie Jackson, ironically enough, would be doing color commentator for ABC. He was in the booth with Keith Jackson and Howard Cosell. And then, can't forget Keith Jackson's call. Mark Littell. Chambliss swings a high drive to right field. Cosell interrupts the call with, "That's gone." "Indeed it is." Gone. And then Cosell makes the rant. Chris Chambliss has won the American League pennant for the New York Yankees. A thrilling game with overtones of that great 6th game of the 1970 of last year's World Series and the 7th game too. What a way for the Yankees to win the pennant. Well, Chris Chambliss had won in one of the rarest forms, a pennant-winning home run. It was the first ever LCS winning home run in either the ALCS or the NLCS. Because, you know, that run was only out in 1969. So Chambliss made history as the first guy with a walk-off pennant-winning home run to go to the World Series. As you might expect, Yankee Stadium went bananas, especially the fans, who mobbed the field. And Chambliss was fighting fans just across home plate. Because if he didn't touch home plate, then they could have argued, and the Royals would have probably kept the game going. But Chambliss somehow crossed home plate. The fans were mobbing him and all that. Well, it was frustration for Yankee fans since 1964. Not getting there. So the Yankees would go on to do it. Chambliss, apparently half an hour after the field was cleared, actually got to touch home plate and all that. I think the umpires knew that Chambliss would have crossed home plate if it wasn't for those pesky fans. And one of the last times fans would rush onto the field in massive throngs. So the Yankees would win the 1976 ALCS. It was a great time to be a Yankee fan, and a bad time to be a Royal fan. The Yankees would go on to get swept by the Reds in the Big Red Machine in the finals. So it was not really a real happy ending for the Yankees. They got swept. But the good news is Reggie Jackson would be in the Yankee lineup. The bad news is Billy Martin and him would clash. Despite that and the Bronx's burning thing, the Yankees would win the 1977 World Series thanks to Reggie Jackson. The Royals would face the Yankees once again in the LCS the next year in 1977 and had the Yankees on the ropes in Game 5, up by a run with, I believe, in the 8th inning before the Yankees rallied. The Yankees and Royals would battle each other in 1978 and 1980 in the LCS. The Yankees would win the 78 LCS to move on to the World Series where they beat the Dodgers. But the Royals got revenge in 3 straight in 1980 to win the ALCS. And George Brett had that 3-home run game to ice it. And the Royals did lose the World Series to the Phillies. And until 2024, that was the last time the Royals and the Yankees would meet in the playoffs was 1980. But the Yankees have taken out the Royals and are in the ALCS. So that's good news. The Yankees kind of got revenge on the Royals, who got revenge on the Yankees in 1980. But Chris Chambliss' home run is still legendary. A pennant-winning home run. It just can't be denied. And you rarely saw that. I can't remember what the next pennant-winning LCS-winning home run was. I would have said Ishikawa for the Giants, but I'm probably wrong. But regardless of that, it's still a fantastic postseason winning home run. Anyhow, I'm jumped. I'm going to do.